Joining us now, Vice Chair of the House Armed Services Committee, Democratic Congressman Anthony Brown of Maryland. He is a veteran of the Iraq War and a recipient of the Bronze Star. Also with us, distinguished lecturer at Stanford University and NBC News and MSNBC senior foreign affairs analyst Brett McGurk. He recently served as special presidential envoy for the global coalition to defeat ISIS at the State Department. Brett, your latest in the Washington Post is entitled "Baghdadi's Death Underscores What We've Lost by Abandoning Syria's Kurds." I want to ask you what we lost, but also ask you about the impact of his death.
Well, on your second question first, it's a landmark day. And really, I was thinking all day yesterday about the victims of ISIS, thousands of victims. Baghdadi is a ruthlessly, particularly evil individual. He kind of institutionalized mass enslavement, mass rape, mass murder, genocide. So it's a landmark day, and the credit goes to our men and women who put these operations together. And like David Ignatius on your last segment, I spent a lot of time in Syria and Iraq working with them. Truly remarkable, and a tribute to them, and something that I hope could bring the country together a little bit. On the point in the op-ed, these things don't just happen. This is painstaking years of work and relationship building and developing access into networks. ISIS really is a network. And so what you want to do when you have a major operation like this is, the term of art is, you want to bring mass effects to the network. That means we're going to collect a lot of information off this site, and we want to immediately be able to follow through on that, to just collapse whatever remains of the foundation of ISIS. And the fact that we have, over the last month, basically abandoned most of northeast Syria, the areas that we really helped claw back from ISIS, their former caliphate, it'll make it much more difficult to do that. And also our partnership with the Syrian Democratic Forces, because we've already left all the traditional Kurdish areas. They're now either in the hands of Turkey and Turkish-backed forces or Russia and the Assad regime, as we consolidate in a really remote area near an oil field. It's going to be much harder to sustain those relationships that allow us to do these things as a country.
Congressman Brown, to you, the impact of Baghdadi's death.
Yeah, I also agree that this is a landmark day. It's a very good day in the global effort to defeat ISIS, and I think it demonstrates that U.S. leadership is critical. There's no other nation that has the will or the ability to bring together an international coalition, nor the military capability to reach the way that we do, whether it's taking on high-value targets, taking them out like al-Baghdadi, or maintaining the pressure that we need to maintain on ISIS. So I think it's a very good. It was a very good day, but also highlights the point that we need to maintain a presence in Syria, need to continue to work with our partners on the ground, in this case, the Syrian Kurds, so that we can maintain maximum pressure on ISIS. Otherwise, you'll see a reemergence. ISIS is like a hydra. You cut off one head, and it'll replenish. It'll reconstitute itself. So continued pressure is critical in Syria, in this region of the world.
Congressman, it's difficult to separate the skill, courage, and expertise of the assets, military and intelligence, that we had on the ground in northern Syria over the weekend. But President Trump seemed to do his best to provide a separation when he used the following language describing the death of al-Baghdadi. He died crying, screaming, whimpering, and he died like a dog. Given your background, given your military background, in a close quarters firefight, given the noise, confusion, and the velocity of the noise in a firefight, how do you think it's possible that he was able to, or someone was able to, hear the words of al-Baghdadi?
Sure. Look, I agree with Secretary Esper. It's going to be important to hear what the more detailed accounts that come back from the field and from the combatant commander. Look, President Obama took 9 minutes to announced to the world that we had killed Osama bin Laden. President Trump took 40 minutes of basically self-promoting himself, a lot of bravado, and really some unnecessary and inappropriate language that both, I think, inspires perhaps future ISIS fighters, but also may have disclosed or revealed some methods and capabilities of our intelligence assets. So that 40 minutes should have been closer to 9, and he could have eliminated a lot of the language that he did to describe what happened and al-Baghdadi himself.
Hey, Brad. It's Jonathan Lemire. Two questions. First, to follow up on that point, what do you make of the president's rather inflammatory language, and what sort of impact could that actually have, perhaps destabilizing, perhaps inspiring future ISIS members or other terrorists? And secondly, it's never been too many moments where Republicans in the Senate have been willing to break with the president. His Syria policy was one of them. Do you think this success yesterday will pacify them, or do you think that those complaints will continue?
You know, Jonathan, maybe I'm just, because I've been so close to this mission, just my main thoughts have been on what's happening over there, and our guys are doing this, and all the victims of ISIS. The president's first part of the statement I thought was okay. I think obviously in his question and answer kind of went all over the place, talking about shifting the entire mission now to protecting an oil field. I mean, these things have broader implications. I helped build the global coalition, myself, General Allen. It grew to almost 80 countries. That's a coalition that was built on the common effort to fight ISIS. The minute you shift the mission to protecting oil or something else, you're going to lose all your coalition partners. And what's important about the Syria mission, and what is so unfortunate, is that we really built it applying all the hard lessons learned from the Iraq War, the Afghanistan War, and they all kind of get jumbled together. But they're not jumbled together. The mission in Syria was small, it was light, it was sustainable. We never had more than really 2,000 Americans on the ground at any given time. Until the beginning of this year, when President Trump ordered our forces to leave and then revisited that decision, we had only lost 2 Americans killed in action. We tragically lost 4 this year after that announcement was made. So it was small. We weren't fighting. We weren't taking casualties. We weren't spending a lot of American taxpayer money because we had a big coalition. And I think to simply lump that in with the endless war talk, as President Trump does, and to basically give up that mission without thinking through the consequences of how you might want to transition some of this space, I really think has been quite disastrous. And it means that we really cannot follow up effectively after this hugely successful day in northwestern Syria. So I think I was on the Senate. I briefed a number of senators last week. They really understand the complexities of this. It's a very thoughtful conversation about what to do, and they're concerned. And there's very little support for sending U.S. forces in with a mission just to protect an oil field.
Congressman Brown, this is Eddie Glaude. I wanted to follow up on precisely what was just said. I mean, look, we see the success of the Delta Force and bringing al-Baghdadi to justice in some ways, and we juxtapose that with President Trump's policies in Syria. And then we hear him talk about deploying U.S. troops to protect the oil. What is the president or the White House's strategy in this region? What can we glean from this? Is it just confusion, incoherence? What do you take to be the strategy in this region from this White House?
Well, I think what we glean from this is there really is no strategy. I mean, the president fluctuates from, December of last year talking about drawing down all 2,000 U.S. forces in Syria. He delays it. Then he implements it, almost putting into jeopardy this mission that occurred on Saturday night, Sunday morning. Let me speak to the issue about protecting the oil fields. While I think it is appropriate to do what we can to deny ISIS access to the oil fields, because we know that ISIS has used the revenues that generated from the black market sale of oil to fund its operations. For the president to suggest that we will invite U.S. oil companies in, that violates international law. That oil belongs to the Syrian government, whether we like the Syrian government or not, and it's a very, very barbaric government under Assad. Those resources ought to be used one day to stabilize and bring peace to not to profit U.S. oil companies. So it's very distasteful and violates international law. And just the mere talk of that, as people have said earlier on this show, sort of contravenes 20 years of what we've been fighting against in terms of the image that the U.S. Is in the Middle East simply to gain access to oil reserves.
All right, Congressman Anthony Brown, thank you very much. Brett McGurk, thank you as well very much.